When my son, Chijioke, left Nigeria 3 years ago, I thought my years of prayers had finally been answered. He was my first child, the one who stood beside me through the toughest years after his father died. We had nothing then, just a small shop and faith that God would see us through. Through school, through job hunting, through heartbreaks, I was there, watching him struggle, watching him grow into a man I could be proud of. When he got a chance to travel to Canada, I cried tears of joy. It wasn't just his dream coming true, it was a mother's reward for years of sacrifice. Before he left, he made sure everything was in order. He built a fine house here in Nigeria, a 2-story building with marble tiles, big gates, and a small garden where he planned to sit and relax whenever he visited home. He said, "Mama, this house is for my wife and kids. I don't want them to suffer while I'm away." His wife, Amara, was a quiet, beautiful woman. I liked her from the beginning. When they got married, she seemed humble and respectful. She always called me Mama, served me food with both hands, and told everyone how blessed she was to marry my son. I took her like my own daughter, looked her children like my own grandchildren. The first year after Chijioke traveled, everything went smoothly. He called almost every day. He sent money regularly. Amara would even come to show me the things she bought with the money: furniture, school fees, clothes for the children. I felt peace in my heart, but slowly things began to change. The calls became fewer. Amara started behaving differently. She stopped visiting me like before. Sometimes when I went to see my grandchildren, she would act cold, as if my presence irritated her. When I asked her what was wrong, she would smile and say, "Mama, I'm just tired." I didn't want to suspect anything bad. Maybe she was going through stress. Raising 2 children alone is not easy, so I gave her space. Until that fateful afternoon. It was a Tuesday. A hot, quiet day. I was returning from the market when I decided to stop by my son's house to see the kids. I didn't call first because I wanted to surprise them, but when I got there, I noticed something strange. The gate was wide open and there were 2 cars parked outside. As I entered the compound, I saw 2 men walking around, inspecting the building carefully. One of them was taking pictures of the house with his phone. "Excuse me," I asked politely, "who are you looking for?" One of them smiled and said, "Good afternoon, ma. We came to check the property. Madam said her husband is selling it urgently before relocating her abroad." For a moment, I couldn't speak. Selling what? I asked again, this time in a trembling voice. "You mean this house, my son's house?" "Yes, ma. She said her husband wants to sell it urgently before relocating her abroad." At that moment, it felt like the ground beneath me disappeared. My heart began to race. I quickly rushed inside and there she was, Amara, sitting in the living room pretending to be busy on her phone. "Amara," I shouted, "what is this nonsense I'm hearing? Who are those men outside?" She looked up startled and then sighed. "Mana, please calm down. I was going to explain." "Explain what?" "That you are selling my son's property, the house he built with his sweat, the house he left for you and his children." Her eyes filled with tears, but her voice was steady. "Mama, I didn't mean harm. I needed money. Things are hard. Chijioke doesn't send enough again, and the children's school fees." "Don't you dare!" I cut her off. "You don't sell a man's property behind his back because of hardship. Did you even tell him?" She shook her head. "I was going to, after I found a buyer." I was speechless. Betrayal burned through my chest. This woman, the same woman who once cried on my shoulder and called me mother, was about to sell everything my son worked for without his knowledge. I stormed out and told the men outside to leave immediately. "Nobody is selling anything here," I said firmly. "If you pay a kobo, you will lose it." They looked confused, apologized, and drove away. That evening, I called my son in Canada. My voice was shaking as I explained everything. There was silence on the other end of the phone for a long time. Then I heard him sniffle. "Mom, please stop her. That's everything I worked for. That's my children's future." I could hear his pain in his voice. My heart broke for him. He trusted her completely. He believed she would protect what they built together. Amara begged for forgiveness later. She said she was desperate, that she didn't mean harm, but desperation is never an excuse for deceit. When my son confronted her over a video call, she fell on her knees crying. He couldn't even look at her. He simply said, "Amara, If you needed anything, you could have asked, but selling my home behind my back, you've killed something in me. From that day, their marriage changed. They still talk, mostly for the sake of the children, but the love, the trust is gone. Every time I visit the house now, I feel a mixture of sadness and relief. Sadness because of what almost happened. Relief because God exposed it before it was too late. Sometimes I sit alone and think about it. How people can hide wickedness behind smiles. How someone can live under your roof and plot against you silently. I raised my son to be kind, to trust, to forgive. But this experience taught us both a bitter truth. Not everyone deserves your full trust, even those who call you family. Amara still lives in the house with the children for now, but I know I'm watching closely. My son has started the process of putting the house in his mother's name temporarily until he returns home next year. He said he wants to protect what's left. And me, I've learned to listen to my instincts. That small voice that told me to stop by that day, it saved everything. If I hadn't, she might have sold the house and disappeared with the money. Life has its ways of exposing secrets. Sometimes God lets you walk into a storm just to open your eyes. Moral lesson: never let desperation drive you into betrayal. What is done in secret will always come to light. Trust is like glass. Once it's broken, it can never return to the way it was.